Bench Opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
If not, we chat for half an hour again. And then we've now spoken to each other twice in 2 days. For our listeners out there, we recorded this entire episode yesterday, and then I managed to somehow, no one knows how, lose the audio and video file. So we're back today. We're going to try and be as funny, if not funnier, than yesterday. It was only a mere 30 minutes that I turned over, 30 minutes ago, and I turned over, and Dom was still snoring next to me. So we're here. It's very early. And we're excited. Bench Opinions, episode 14. Claus, you're back in Berlin after a nice weekend in Edinburgh.
I am.
Where was it? We are like we said in the last podcast, we're like an hour away from Edinburgh, which feels very different, place. You know? Yeah.
Very nice place.
Yeah, we went to St. Andrews yesterday, walked around on the home of golf, and had a lot of Guinness.
Nice. First time for you. How was that?
That was very special. Yeah. It was it looked like it was just as special for Dom to see it again as for him to watch me see it for the first time. He was very excited.
That's true. It is a special place. I think it's very unique. And if you walk in there, I think it just is, even though you've seen it on television 100 times or you think you know what it's like. I mean, I've compared to having been to Old Trafford the first time, I think the fact that you see it so much on television and then the fact that it's right in front of your eyes is pretty overwhelming. And even yesterday, the whole town, it was super sunny, a lot of golfers out there, and we actually had a bit of FOMO and we're quite jealous. But we then noticed that they, in November, they have to use mats to play off. And also the tee boxes, there's also like a mat on the tee boxes. So a little diminished the FOMO a little bit, I must say, but still very special.
So whenever anybody teed off, they were like, we wouldn't want to play here on mats. Sorry.
Another question that I have for you is, Maxi, you're looking a little browner. Run us through that. I'm not
looking browner. Thanks to the hot tub we've got here. So all the fake tan that I got is already worn off. No, but the boys finally pulled through on their bed. I'm sure we can splice a part of the video of my reaction into this. If not, you'll see it on our socials. They told me we were going for a dog walk. Caught me a little bit off guard because after about a 10-minute walk, we turned a corner and there was Claus standing in the doorway of a tanning salon. And I proceeded to get a fake tan, and it was very similar to that episode of Friends where Ross gets spray tan, because this lady put me in that booth. She says, this machine will tell you 1, then you get sprayed from the front, then it will tell you 2, then you do this weird like sideways motion, then it sprays the one side, then 3, then you turn the other side, and falls your back. And it went 1, then it went a drying cycle, then it went 2, then a drying cycle, and then it said, you're done. And I said, well, I'm not done, because I've only had half of it, so I pushed the button again, and it started from 1 again, did 2, this time it did 3 and 4, and then it was done. Then it said, push the button to go for your third round. And then I popped my head out and was like, how many times do I push it? And then the lady was like, you only push it once. So now I've got orange splots covered around my body. But since we have a hot tub in our Airbnb, I think they've started like washing off into the dirty water that now Dom is laying in there with me.
So what you're saying is
you've also got spray tan.
Tanning is an art. You know, it's people mustn't diminish it. You know, also a very good moment in our podcast history, because the first ever wager first ever forfeit, and we almost didn't do it, and now we've done it. So we've laid down the gauntlet.
You guys surprised me, shocked me there. I didn't think that would happen. Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Keeping you on your toes, man. Keeping you on your toes.
All right, should we jump into some sports results as we did yesterday?
Let's do a repeat.
Dominic, give me the first ever reaction of the South Africans beating Scotland.
Not surprised, to be honest. We did say that we would probably beat the Scots. Very amazing atmosphere. I mean, the whole experience was incredible. I think we were very fortunate as well to be with our very good friends in Edinburgh, and the build up to the whole event and the whole occasion was very cool. Murrayfield buzzing as always. Strange periods of very quiet crowd. I don't know if that's that's something that usually is the case. But as soon as the Scots sort of made a big tackle or got a bit ahead on something or had a good passage of play, the Scottish fans were very, very loud. So very cool. The ebbs and flows of the atmosphere. But all in all, I think a good performance from the Boks, and seeing some similar sort of traits from this team as we did with the games in the Rugby Championship, and something we've commented before, that just really knowing how to get it across the line, and maybe the score a little bit flattering, I think, possibly.
Yeah. Claus, you've been to Murrayfield before, watched South Africa there before. What did you think of this experience at Murrayfield? Because I also thought it was a bit quiet, and I thought maybe that was because the Springboks were so dominant.
I think it's actually quite common in Europe that the crowd gets a bit quiet every now and again. I find in South Africa the gees stays higher, the energy stays higher for the duration of the game, whereas in Europe it tends to ebb and flow as the game sort of goes through its own lulls. But when people get excited, people get properly excited, and the Scots are always fun to be around. Even if they don't win and they're losing, they're always super friendly about it, and they have a good laugh and good banter with everyone.
I think it's that old German saying, "Wie es in den Wald hineinschallt." Dominic was very polite with the Scottish fans, and whenever a penalty went against Scotland, or he said that wasn't a penalty, and then
shocked. I was just shocked. I was like, "This is where's the game gone?"
You guys are being treated so horribly. The one guy who wasn't upset about the Scottish getting penalties is the guy 2 rows in front of us, who jumped up whenever we made about 30 centimeters of gain line. So it brought me to the question of when does one stand up and when doesn't one for a rugby game? I mean, there was times when you, Claus, next to me on your crutches, seemed like by the time you'd gotten up, everyone sat back down again.
Yeah, it was a bit tricky. I think I mentioned to you once or twice, I was like, I hope we don't score too many more tries, because this is quite strenuous getting up and down. I think standing in a stadium is all part of the excitement and the energy, and I think that's what gives the home teams their advantage, is people getting passionate about their team moving forward. And if you've got away fans there, they're more than inclined to do the same. I do understand the frustration, though, now being on the other side of it and not having that mobility to be able to stand up. So if you've got a couple of elderly people behind you, I can understand that it gets a bit frustrating, especially when it's on the 50-meter line. There's no real reason for a jump up in that regard.
To get excited. Yeah, for sure. Dom, run me through your player of the match from South African point of view, and the player who maybe struggled the most.
For me, definitely, obviously, the famous kick from Willie. I think also, it's weird. I like it when a player like Willie maybe shuts up some of the critics. I think a lot of people were still critical of him, even despite the performance or that kick. He seemed to run the game at times for us, and a player that maybe is in the spotlight a lot, and therefore, when he pulls off something like the kick across to Makazole Mapimpi, then he really is in the spotlight. But if he makes any mistake, it's the other side of the coin. So definitely that player, I think it's quite an obvious choice. And for me, I think the decline in Jaden Hendrikse is quite steep. I think we were all big. I mean, I was a big fan of him coming into the season. I thought he was a good option at 9. I wouldn't say he was my favorite option at 9. I think we're gifted with a lot of really good players in scrum half position, but not good. I mean, he's had a couple of really bad performances for the Sharks this year, losing his spot to Grant Williams, and I don't know where it goes from here. I think we spoke about it yesterday off camera that he did seem to be nursing a knock, so maybe that's a good sort of guise for him to kind of, or an excuse to come out the team, maybe find a little bit of form again and then come back in again. So you're saying
he's past his prime, eh?
I think he's a bit too young for that. If I were past my prime at 24, I think it would have been quite as sad. I don't think I'm even in my prime yet. So shame. Let's
all our primes are still coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Claus, just give me your. I think I assume you're also on the Jaden Hendrikse struggled the most in that game, Bus. But give me your player who you think performed the best.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with Dominic there. Jaden Hendrikse didn't have a good game, and I don't think he's been having a good season either. My standout player was actually It's two guys. One was Caden Moody. I don't actually like him on the wing. I thought he did extremely well, especially under the high ball. He was...
Is it especially or is it especially?
No, I got stuck in my throat. Especially.
Especial.
As the...
like an espresso.
Yeah. No, he especially excited me.
Yeah.
Also, I thought Andre Esterhuizen had a phenomenal game. I thought he played really well. Had a lot of forward momentum, or gave a lot of forward momentum to the team, breaking lines and really putting the Scottish defence under pressure. Especially on defence, he did well as well, I thought. From a Scottish side that was throwing everything and the kitchen sink at it, he managed to really hold his own. So I thought he did really well too.
Also,
Plus, when I ask you for your player of the game and you then give me two, that's now not fair because now you've taken mine because Andre Esterhuizen was mine. So now you've taken all the food away. You've taken all the way food from the buffet, and now I'm there left with just an apple.
Okay, for me it was just Kane and Moody. He was phenomenal. Everybody else was.
I really liked Andre Esterhuizen and how much he put the Scottish on the back foot.
Please tell us more.
A special mention, though, as well for Kane and Moody keeping Duan van der Merwe so quiet. I think that's obviously also one of the jobs probably that would have been given to him. Very, very quiet. I mean, I think it's hard for a player like Duan because you become such a target, I think, for teams, or at least teams know, particularly in the Scottish setup, I think a lot of the sort of the forward play, a lot of the exciting play comes through a player like Duan van der Merwe. So obviously I think it would have been on Russie's list to keep quiet, but they did so successfully for sure.
So we had quite an interesting setup, right? Because we had the controversial 7-1 split. What was your opinion on? Well, I mean, it's controversial in the sense that other people can't do it, and we're the only team that can.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you guys? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who felt this way. But did you feel that the bomb squad had an immediate impact, or was it more of a slow poison? What? Was it beneficial or was it not even
I think
talking about?
I thought we were dominant in the scrums beforehand. I thought there was individual players in that bomb squad who replaced players and made a big difference. But I mean, I don't think it was the bomb squad coming on and suddenly we were so much more dominant in our pack, which I think. What's this? I know the Super Sport actually released that quote from that Jones guy. I think he's Welsh or whatever, who said another guy who's criticizing the 7-1 split and this many forwards coming on and how dangerous it is and how much it negates beautiful play because you're limiting backline players. And when all of this came out, I was wondering how many big injuries have there been when we've brought on our bomb squad?
But also, hold on. I think true good question. True good question. But what are we talking about here? I mean, particularly for a Welsh journalist, after what the Fijians did to his boys, to come out and talk about dangerous and not dangerous.
Well, he's scared of physicality, clearly, because they just got flipping steamrolled.
Yeah, but I just think, I don't know. I think, as Claus mentioned, briefly touched on, it's like the fact that we're talking about something that's completely legal and every other team in the world can go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And choose not to for whatever reason, whether it's lack of depth or whatever it is unbelievable. I also think it's interesting to see the different iterations and the way Rassie can really, there's been times where he's then decided against bringing on all 7 of the players at the same time. He chooses to this game, for example, I think it was really important to have a Malcolm Marx come on, for example, because Bongi Mbanambi was not having the greatest time in the lineouts. And I also wonder if that's not the trigger to say, okay, listen, we're losing key parts of the game and let's bring our boys on. And I also think it's a little bit short-sighted to see it only as it's called the Bomb Squad. I think it's a very romanticized name. It's very cool for us. It's almost like a branding. But I think people don't really see the sort of the different sort of depths and iterations of what this bomb squad can do. Malcolm Marx is obviously an extremely physical hooker, but we were struggling in the lineouts and we had to start fixing that issue, and I think there's a lot of things like we said there. Ergis Snyman is an incredible lineout lock. Yes, he's big. Yes, he's strong, but we were struggling in set pieces. Well, that set piece at least brought them on and it seemed to settle the ship a little bit. So I don't know. I think people have dumbed down this idea of the bomb squad to the point where it's like, oh no, they're just coming on to hurt people, and I think they've missed the point a little bit.
The thing that I find so interesting is that when we were doing a 6-2 split, that was already controversial. People were like, oh my word, you can't do this. We're talking about one more forward. It's not like the majority of the players you bring on are still forwards. So it's not that one guy who's now suddenly going to be hurting people. The game's going to change. Like I don't.
Can I tell you what will really disturb the apple cart is when we bring on 8 forwards and don't have a single back on the bench.
Or we can use Quacha as a backline player.
Yeah, I think that'll really disturb the apple cart.
I think what the real big problem is, or for other teams, is that our reserve bench is just as good as our starting pack. And I think that's what the big problem is. I think if we had world-class players on the bench, then people would be like, oh, what the hell? They can do whatever they want. We don't care. But the fact that we can do a 1-for-1 replacement, that's where people are like, this is unfair.
For sure. Do you know what I think? So I think this is something that Rassi has already done very well, and he's instilled in the group probably very well. When you're at the top, people will try everything and find everything to try and bring you down. And if you can rise above it and just sort of ignore it, maybe play some of it down, maybe he even jokes about it and sort of makes the fool of some people. I think that's what us Springbok fans need to get to as well, is sort of just rise above the noise. And just because I think that's what the All Blacks were really good at. Obviously, they were dominant for so much longer, but they really just rose above, it felt like, the crop, and they just let everyone else bicker below them. So I really hope Bob Skinstad's prediction comes through and Rassi can put together a few years of dominance. But touch wood, long time to go. Claus, quickly, your opinion on the first trial of the 20-minute red card in international play. We saw it in the Fiji-Wales game. What did you think?
I loved it. I think in the past, too many games have been decided by a red card. I think with the way that the laws are changing, too many red cards are being handed out anyway. So the fact that they can be replaced by a player after 20 minutes, by a different player after 20 minutes, I think at least keeps the game interesting. And as you mentioned, in the Wales-Fiji game, there was there's a plethora of cards. But because they could bring on another player, it kept Fiji in the game and actually went on and won the game, which is quite nice to see.
What I found, if you look at two separate matches with two different refereeing teams, obviously it's tough to judge, but looking at that 20-minute red card for the Fijian, who basically spear tackled the Oak in the head, and then the cards that were handed out in the Scotland-South Africa game. I mean, that tackle on Franco Mostert, when he dropped on his limb, he literally just dropped on the last bit of his foot. So that's where I think people will really criticize World Rugby and come after them, is in terms of consistency, in terms of what is really dangerous and what is and what isn't. Because like Dominic said in a few podcasts now, the letter of the law is quite tough to interpret in rugby sometimes, and I know that'll open them up for criticism when you've got straight shots to the head. This Oak was basically, I mean, he was in a Superman stance, this Fijian. And his team were back to full strength after 20 minutes. I'm sure the Welsh probably also feel a bit aggrieved about that, is that they probably believe, had that really injured their player more, 20 minutes is not enough.
But I think the cool thing about this card is that the player in question still gets punished, and I think that mustn't be forgotten either. You know, it's not the Fijians collectively that almost decapitated this Welsh player. It's an individual error, and I think that's the cool thing about it. The team gets punished for a period of time for sure. That player remains punished because he'll go on to get sanctioned for sure. I think he'll be or cited. He'll definitely be missing a few games, I think, after that tackle. And the team still is able to compete in the game. And I think that's what fans want as well. You know, if you think about it, you've gone to the Principality Stadium that day. You're there with your family, and after 14 minutes, it's no longer an equal game of rugby.
No one goes to the Principality with their family because Daddy's just going to get really drunk and probably try and go streak on the field.
We've lived this firsthand.
No one drinks as much in the stadiums as the flippin' the Welsh do. Yeah. Claus, maybe run us through some of the other results, because there were some big ones. Maybe let's limit it to the major nations.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you that same question, but I can start with the first couple. Wales, Fiji, as we just mentioned, Fiji went and won their first game in Wales. We spoke about this yesterday. Yesterday was also pretty strange, but also very exciting and impressive that even once the whistle, well, not the whistle had blown, but the time had run out, and Fiji were ahead, they still decided from their own try line, let's run it, let's see if we can score some more points. Where every other nation would be like, we're going to win this game for the first time in Wales ever in history, kick it out, take the win. No, they still want to play. So a very exciting team, maybe also a little bit crazy, but exciting nevertheless. And well done to Fiji for coming back after all of those cards. I think they had 2 yellow cards and a red card, still managed to win. I think Wales had 1 yellow card. I can't remember exactly on the amount. So that was
Fiji collect more cards than Argentina do, eh? My goodness.
Oh, yeah. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And then another big game, or arguably the biggest game of the weekend, was the New Zealand team beating Ireland in the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. I don't think many people predicted that. And so that was a crazy one. I think when New Zealand's on their best form, they're better than Ireland. Mm-hmm. But Ireland is just always up there, and the fact that they could pip them was pretty impressive. So well done to New Zealand for that.
I saw the Ireland also responded to the haka with a little walk forward. It looked a bit strange because it seemed like the wing at the end was continuing to walk forward and everyone stopped, and then it sort of created like a little, almost like a half circle, which I don't think was planned.
But that, Dominic, you could feel the energy. Sorry, you could feel the energy pick up as well over the television feed as well in the stadium as soon as they started to step forward. So it was quite cool to see. Yeah.
And well, if I remember correctly, I've heard the New Zealand players all praise that, and they said that they love the people sort of accepting the challenge. So I think World Rugby really needs to have a look at their laws. I think the halfway line should be the line in the sand, but I wouldn't mind if teams sort of respond to it if it's not like we said last week with their own little flippin' breakdance battle. Dom, run me through the other upset of the weekend. Boys from down under.
Our friends at the Alliance Stadium. Look, very shocking surprise. I think we all called it that England would steamroll them and didn't see this in the stars. I think, look, at the end of the day, the Australians got the job done. It's crazy for England not to be able to hold that lead. I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row now where they've been ahead, and you would think that they should have seen out the game. Or at least had a chance to win a game, a very real chance, and dropped the ball. I think maybe literally as well, actually literally. But Australia, good bottle. A lot of energy around the Australian team starting to emerge of young players, people getting quite excited about some of the players, the youngsters coming through. There's also a lot of aggressive communication from Australian rugby that I'm reading about, really doing hard work to try and recruit players at a younger age now within Australia, really looking to poach 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds from rugby league teams. So I think they've sort of understood, and also with the next World Cup being down under in Australia, they've understood that they have to start doing the hard yards, and this is a great result for them. I think after the win away to Argentina, even though they got smashed the week afterwards, I think that you're slowly starting to maybe see a little bit of an identity form. So it's really good. I'm interested to see what that means for our game, also the Springboks game against England on Saturday as well, with Borthwick under a lot of criticism now, I think. English fans are the worst, and English media is the worst, I think, if you're on the receiving end of some pressure. I don't know what it means for him. I think he has the Six Nations to prove that he's the coach to take him to the next World Cup, and if he doesn't, I think he's gone.
Yeah, where are England in the rankings? Because they've now lost 2 games, one against Australia,
I think they dropped below Scotland. Yeah, they did. So Scotland actually took them. I think 6th or 7th. Yeah, 6th or 7th. Interesting comment with everyone saying the British and Irish Lions going to Australia next year. Australia might not be good enough. Now I saw a tweet saying the British and Irish Lions might not be good enough to go to Australia because the Northern Hemisphere teams are really struggling. The result that rounded out the top nations on the weekend was Argentina thumping Italy at home, which I think for the Rugby Championship was just a very nice rounded up weekend. Let's go into some quick predictions for this weekend without any forfeit. Claus, don't worry, we're not going to make you go shark cage diving if you get it wrong. Give us your result for England-South Africa. Just a quick one, no in-depth analysis.
I think it's going to be South Africa, and I think it's going to be a larger margin than against Scotland.
Okay. By 20?
Yeah, let's go with 20.
Okay. Dominic?
Worried about playing a wounded England at Twickenham, but I think we're going to win, and I think it'll be a similar margin to the game against Scotland.
Okay.
So 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of right halfway between you two. I think anything by 2 tries, I think 14, 15 points. And then another big game on the weekend is France versus New Zealand. Difficult one, in my opinion, to predict because the French really haven't played anyone of any nature. And New Zealand are good, but they're not that good. But I think it could be a battle at eye level.
Yeah, I think New Zealand will take it. I think they're coming off a good momentum against Ireland, and they would want to keep that record going.
I wonder how much that win against Ireland took out of New Zealand, mentally particularly. So I'm going to go with a narrow victory for France.
I'm with Claus on this one. I do think the French have really had the wind knocked out of them when we knocked them out of the World Cup, and I think they're sort of swimming in a sea of ambiguity right now. I think New Zealand will beat them, and I think it'll send them on a bit of a spiral. Right, enough about rugby, I reckon. Yeah, little big prediction there, Claus. Just snuck it in before we go into football.
They're
spiraling.
Okay,
they're going to be the new Wales in 2 years.
Oh wow.
Okay, into some football predictions. No, not football predictions, football news rather. Dominic, run us through some major results from the weekend there out of the Premier League.
Yes, felt like a pivotal weekend right before another fucking international break. God damn it. Anyway, I hate those things, and there's been 3 of them already. But yes, Arsenal drawing to Chelsea. That's a big result. I think Arteta and his boys really needed that win. They're not playing well at all. They're struggling. Arteta's also becoming increasingly animated on the touchline. Some bizarre, he laid down at one point when they missed a chance. So yeah, it seems like it screams desperation. City losing, massive win for Brighton. Hats off to them. I think it's easy to focus always on the big teams losing, and one maybe overlooks the great performances by, in this case, Brighton, a team under a young manager that looks increasingly exciting, and they just have such a good habit for finding incredible talent from all around the world. They've got a couple of 19-year-olds that I'd never heard of before who are just ripping it up. So good win for them. And I think Pep, the fourth win in his career, first time ever that's happened in his career. And it's interesting. I mean, I think I've said this before about Pep. He gets into sort of weird, bizarre phases where he speaks not in tongues, but he's sort of very stroppy and like complains about things. And I think there is a bit of a crisis happening there with injuries. I think he's desperate for that January transfer window to try and plug the hole that Rodri leaves. But let's see if that works. I think it's always a bit of a toss of a coin. So stress there. So that means for your boys, Liverpool.
Big win.
Win. 5 points ahead now at the top of the table.
Good win
how are you feeling? What's the story?
Against Aston Villa, because it seems like for a large part of the season, everyone said Liverpool hasn't played anyone, and we've played some really good teams up till now, teams that other teams around us haven't been able to beat, and we've come through. So just keep my head down and keep moving. I don't want to be too loud. Actually, I do. We're going to win the league. You can all eat shit, except for you, Claus. Okay. You don't care. Tottenham lost to Ipswich on the weekend. Didn't seem to change your mood at all. You still look like you were having a grand old time. And then, Dom, your boys with a convincing win and a send-off for Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the win. I think 3-0 is really nice. I think I worry for Leicester. I've said this before, and I think they're a team that are only going to stay up by beating the teams around them. I don't think they're going to go out and get any results of any kind. So I think would have expected us to beat them, particularly at Old Trafford, after beating them in the Cup as well. And great spell for Ruud. 4 games, 3 wins and 1 draw. He steadied the ship. And I think it's created a great base for Ruben Amorim to come into. So I'm not really getting too excited just yet, but it's good signs for sure.
Ruud has really set himself up for success with this little stint, because I think United fans wouldn't mind seeing him back one day in the future with this little performance that he's delivered. So now he can go off coach somewhere else, and we might see him again in the Premier League at United. Some other news coming out of the Premier League was referee David Coote being in a video. It's from a few years ago, where he called the Liverpool performance shit, called Jurgen Klopp a cunt. He seems to be a bit inebriated.
Kidding.
He seems to be a bit inebriated in it. It's caused a bit of a scandal, because obviously Liverpool fans have been very quick to jump on he's robbed us of 3 Premier Leagues, and the PGMOL is against us, the league is against us, and City are stealing the titles from us. Listen, it's a dumb video to record in the first place, regardless how drunk you are, but referees will have opinions. Jurgen Klopp was very antagonistic with referees. And if you already have a leaning towards a Manchester club, I believe he's a Manchester United fan, then it's not going to take much more if someone is literally a dickhead to you, for you to then not like him and to maybe even have a bias against his team. I don't think there's this massive underground conspiracy to favor one team or the other. Although that's what some fans online are making it seem. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think probably in a few weeks it'll have blown over, and he'll either still have a job or he won't.
I saw an interesting stat actually last night that showed the average points that teams have had under him, and like the top 4, I think, was City were first in terms of average points when he refs a game. Liverpool was second in terms of average point, and then United, I think, were 4th. So I think, he refed in a period of dominance for City. So but I think that's enough of a sign to say, okay, I don't know. At the end of the day, the guy's allowed to, in his private life, have an opinion. The
Liverpool fans obviously pick out some of the worst decisions that haven't gone for us when he was either VAR and the referee, and some of them were really, really shocking. But I mean, there's shocking decisions by referees in every Premier League game across the weekend. I think you'll agree with me, Dom, and Claus. Obviously, with all your football watching, you'll also have had a problem with this. Refereeing in the Premier League is not at a great standard currently, with a lot of mistakes being made, and especially the use of VAR seems terrible and still lagging behind so much.
What part of the game is suffering in terms of decision making? Is it the tackling and the foul play, or is it?
I think consistency. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not going through, I think, the same as rugby is, but you'll watch a game and you have VAR, and it seems like some decisions get unchecked, some don't. The referee gets asked to review some don't, and it's just, I think the only thing that sort of has seemingly gotten better is the offside thing, because I think we've gotten to a point now where offsides are now pretty clear. I know last season they still had some major mistakes. Liverpool also got done by one there. But I think it's, tackles, handballs are still, in my eyes, a 50-50, what is and what isn't. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I haven't lost any more love for the game because of that, but I think that's where they are currently. One more thing that we should quickly discuss before heading off is the massive boxing event happening this weekend. Jake Paul, the YouTuber / influencer, has decided to fight I think what is he, 56, 52?
He's old.
Knocking on 60.
Yeah, a 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson. And yeah, I don't.
He said, by the way, Mike Tyson is the fucking best. Like, he said some crazy shit back in the day, but I read a quote today where he was like, "My mother's got to watch out if she gets in the ring with me. If I'm in the ring, it don't matter who you are." That's what he said. So who says that? Like, he's basically admitted that if he had to fight his mom, he would. Which is fucking bizarre. Who says anything like that?
That's fighting talk, man.
He seems very into it. Obviously, I struggle to believe anything around these YouTube fights. These sort of organized things. You know, they initially tried to just make an exhibition boxing match, and everyone's like, what the fuck? We're not paying to watch you fucking dance around a ring.
Yeah.
Initially they were supposed to fight with headgear, and now they've removed all of that. It's going to be 8 rounds. It's full boxing match, which I think has definitely turned on the heat. I think that's what they want as well. They want to sell pay-per-views. It's on DAZN. No, it's on Netflix, actually, I think. So that's interesting as well to see one of the streaming platforms go into sports, which is a shift that we'll see more and more of, I think. But yeah, I mean, I get why Mike Tyson's doing it. It's a big payday, I think, as well.
Jake Paul too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
The only reason why I'm not, because I think a 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson, if I see some of the videos of him training, I'm still like, Jesus, that Oka's still an animal. But I don't think Jake Paul takes fights that he doesn't think he's going to win. I think he even thought he was going to win that Fury fight against Tommy Fury, and he picked a boxer there who really hadn't made a name for himself. He was more of a celebrity boxer as well. So that's why I'm always a bit cautious about watching these, because it's not that I think the outcome is rigged, but I'm always like, I don't know, because let me be very honest with you. I wouldn't mind seeing Jake Paul knocked out. I do not like that guy.
I've seen 2 of Jake Paul's fights, and I was sitting there watching with our friend Reggie, who's massive into boxing and MMA, and
was he shadow boxing next to the TV, pretending to be there?
He was like, I'll do this, and uppercut.
Pretending to be in a fight in Bedford View.
Exactly, in a bar. But watching Jake Paul, half the time he's hugging the opponent. He loses. Yeah. He doesn't have stamina. He doesn't have endurance. Technically he's maybe good. But I can't judge that. But it's not a very entertaining fight, to be honest with you. And even you're saying it's streaming on Netflix. I actually saw the promo video. It looks exactly like a trailer for a movie, and that's what I think it's being set up.
Is it a Michael Bay movie? Is there lots of explosions?
Yeah, bam, 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 pyrotechnic, all that crap.
So
I don't see it being very entertaining. I think it's going to be staged, even though everybody's saying it's not. And if the last Netflix streaming like sports stream is anything to go by, which was the F1 meets golf streaming thing in Las Vegas last year, it was terrible. The coverage was terrible. The whole production was terrible. If this is anything like that, I think Jake Paul is going to lose all credibility, because he's just had been like 3 or 4 massive fails of fights, and I think Netflix is also going to lose credibility in terms of, are they capable of hosting sports events?
I think, though, like, in terms of trying to get someone to like rig a fight, I think Mike Tyson's like the worst possible person, because I think
he's
if
not
this guy
gonna,
gets in the ring, he's just going to try and knock that. Because we've heard he would hit his mother if he had to. So there you have it.
And I think this is it's I mean, even though I don't like the guy, he is very good at marketing himself and sort of painting himself as the villain, Jake Paul. Because I struggle to believe that he's that much of a dickhead in real life, although maybe he is. But I think even though people will hate it, a lot of people will still tune in and watch it. And that's all that he cares about. So I guess props to him. Let's run through some players of the week or players of the week. Claus, thank God the episode from yesterday got deleted, so we don't run through that faux pas again of you congratulating the South African women's cricket team on their great result. On their tough loss. But now I brought it up again, so now it's back in.
Now it's back in the episode.
So, who knows? I might lose this one as well. Give us a new one for today.
My player of the week, it's actually not going to be sports related. It's going to be the lovely lady Mary, who pushed me through the airport in Edinburgh. Took me all the way to the gate, and she was having a lovely chat with her. She was telling me about all of her injuries, and we get to the gate where we need to go down the elevator, and the security rocks up, and he's like, "Oh no, I need to scan you, because otherwise you can't get down." She's like, "Oh no, my card works as well." It's like, "Oh no, well you shouldn't have that clearance, and how dare you have that?" And she was being super friendly and like trying to keep the banter alive. And she's like, "Oh yeah, love, no, that's all right. Okay, you please go ahead and scan." As soon as he was out of earshot, that little shite. How can he? Who does he think he is? And I was just thinking about, because we always talk about when we go to the UK that the Brits are always so friendly and the hospitality is so nice. And I've spoken with a couple of Brits about it, like how much we enjoy being in England, Scotland, Ireland, whatnot. And they always say to me, "It's like it's a facade, it's a facade, it's a facade." And there was the first time that I got to like properly see behind that facade. You know, friendly. As soon as out of earshot, just lambasted the guy for 5 minutes.
Tough that you didn't mention Wales there, because you went England, Ireland, Scotland, whatnot, and we have been to Wales, but you clearly didn't enjoy it there.
Did we speak to that many Welsh people though? I feel like I didn't engage with them as much as.
Of course, we were in Wales. What do you guys? Everyone we spoke to, that wasn't our friends. Or South African was Welsh.
Yeah.
Okay, but I didn't feel like I was talking to as many strangers as we have in Scotland.
Yeah. Perhaps. Good save, Klaus. Good save. Klaus loves the Welsh.
I stand by what I said.
He loves them so much he bought a hoodie. My player of the week is Paul Waring, actually, who is a 39-year-old golfer who won the golf in Abu Dhabi, the penultimate event of the season. Incredible. He beat out a bunch of big names. Rory McIlroy is in the mix. Tyrrell Hatton was in the mix to win arguably I think the second biggest event on the European Tour circuit at the age of 39. So very, very cool, very dominant display. 24 under for the week, so they took that course apart. So really nice to do something so late in your career, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like us, mid-30s, starting a podcast.
There you go.
My play of the week goes to Klaus. I complimented you on this yesterday. I thought you did extremely well on your crutches around in Edinburgh. Can't have been easy. We're in every bar having a good time. Watched your alcohol intake so you weren't too drunk on those stilts. And now I think you've got it all figured for our next weekend in London.
We will see. A
lot of traveling for you, a lot of airports.
A lot of airports.
We'll be surprised if some of the people pushing you around at the Berlin airport won't be like, weren't you here last week? Like,
I actually enjoyed the same guy who picked me out of the airplane. He was the same guy who brought me onto the airplane when we flew to Edinburgh. So I've already got one. Yeah.
There we go. Nice. Well, we're going to be at the game in England this week. Really looking forward to that. A lot of friends coming together to watch that one too. And then we'll be back with another episode next week to dissect what has happened.
Back in the studio.
All right, guys.
Nice.
Thanks for a good episode. Thanks to everyone listening. Please listen, like, and share it amongst your friends. Yeah. I'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
In 2 minutes, Maxi.